Hi everyone, it's your girl again, Eunice. Okay, let's continue with part two of unveiling GRC related projects. Projects that you're gonna be working on when you get your job, or maybe you're already there, but there are just so many other things that you can do, right? Let's just focus more in-house. Say you're working for the organization full time. What are those things that you will be doing? There are just so many things that you will be doing. I think we touch base on some, right? First and foremost, one of your core projects, depending on your role and the organization setting, you might be leading the remediation efforts. Say, for example, they have vulnerability scanning tools like Nessus, Rapid7, or any scanning tools that your organization have. So you know that those scans are being automated. They run pretty much, based on the time frame that your organization have put in place. So one of your major role will be you might not know how to run the scan. You might have people that run the scan, but from compliance perspective, you need to make sure that scans are being run, right? And each time those scans are those scans are being run, then you need to get the outputs and make sure that you follow up with the respective team to make sure that they are being remediated based on your organization remediation and termination timeline. Did you get that? And there are times that, of course, maybe once in a while, maybe your manager, of course, as being a manager, when you also meet with other, leadership, you have to present the output. And, in the course of doing that, it's always advisable to have like good metrics, right? You can create dashboards where you can literally take a screenshot to see the actual risks and the different impact levels, right? Because each time you run those scans, you should be able to see the impact levels, and that will give you a good picture and time frame as to how you all go about implementing it. And remember, you still be working with people. What if maybe the organization is really heavy on agile methodology? So that's something that with what you've captured, then you need to also maybe discuss it, put it on the table of the scrum masters or project managers, where, they'll be the one to also integrate it during their sprint and to follow up to make sure that, those items are being remediated in a timely manner. So that's a good project, okay? And apart from vulnerability scan, still those two, right? Depending on the two, you have the vulnerability section, you have the compliance or policy scan. So you can also run, it's advisable to run them independently. Vulnerability scan, that way you see the vulnerability, and then compliance scan, that way you see the compliance, where you guys are compliance wide, right? So when you run the compliance scan, all you're trying to do is to be able to see your compliance status. As you hear the word policy scan or compliance scan, so you are scanning against a policy, pretty much security controls that you guys have in place. And the beautiful thing is that some of the tools, the way they come in, they already have those inbuilt. For example, NIST 853, CIS control, ISO 27001, HIPAA, or PCIDS, or whatever standards that your organization goes with, right? So, but once you get that, you should be able to see where you guys are compliance-wise, where you still want to work with different stakeholders to be able to make sure that those controls are being implemented, right? And each time they're doing so, also make sure your policies is up to date. One of the main projects you all are going to be doing over and over again, depending on your role, is to be able to review and update security policies, right? So, and then another project that you're going to do in-house, and again, just security hygiene, right? Just again, going through all the processes you guys have in place, making sure your organization is following best practices. Another beautiful one has to do with patch management. Where I work, I think my last roles, like some roles, I've not really worked on that side, but when I was a lead, I also facilitated like patch management. So you have like Patch Tuesday, where Microsoft push patches to the asset, and then again you also want to see those assets that hasn't been patched, why they were in patch, when are they going to patch it, okay? And remember, we saw it with CrowdStrike. There are times too it's also advisable. Do we also want to just do automatic deployment, or do we really want to test the patch in a test environment before we deploy it to production? All right, so these are some of the things that you all are going to be working. I don't know if I mentioned about user awareness training. That's a big one. Actually, I took one interview just to be able to provide awareness training at the enterprise level, right? But I finally turned down the role because I got the offer later. I finally turned it down because I was busy. I was just trying to take the job. Okay, so that's another beautiful one too. Maybe there are times you might go for an organization, you'll be shocked when you see their training. They might have a percentage of 50, 60. You might have all the users clicking on the link. You might have user not even reporting, right? And that's where you also want to make sure that maybe you can tailor it based on role base or maybe organization need, and make sure they watch, the training videos, and then also go over your simulation. And each time you do your simulation, again, I love metrics, right? Metrics are great. So by the time you capture those metrics, you see that employees have not covered certain aspect, or they've not taken the training, maybe their training is overdue, then you can reach out to the respective managers for them to talk to their employees. That way they can take the training, okay? And then another thing that you're going to do in compliance or in conjunction with the, the compliance scan and policy scan, you as a GRC person, you also want to make it a habit of testing your controls. So you want to also perform that self-assessment, right? Always just make it a habit, and that will eventually reduces your work, right? Especially if you have to lead like annual assessment projects where you have the external auditors come in. Yeah, when you have the external auditors come in, that helps, right? Because just imagine the fact that you'll be able to streamline your processes. You already have all those artifacts. So that will, you've just been proactive and be on top of your game. Those are some of the projects you're going to be working on. What if your organization have 2 or more regulatory frameworks or standards? Then you have to perform gap analysis. Gap analysis is a big one, right? It doesn't matter if your organization have 2 or 3 frameworks. Maybe your organization also have just one, maybe NIST. Now, NIST 853 is out there. Maybe you have to migrate your organization's systems, information system from Rep 4 to Rep 5, where you also have to perform gap analysis and then identify all the baseline controls based on your impact levels for your systems, right? But what if, again, you have a lot of organizations that adhere to 2 or 3 regulatory frameworks? And a situation like that, then you also have to map security controls, okay? And then you also need to, again, as I said, map controls, perform gap analysis, and follow up, with the different stewards or stakeholders. And many a times you're going to have a lot of issues, working with people, it's just difficult working with people. So being able to be on top of them, and know that as a compliance person, they really don't like you because you're going to be on their neck, like on their nerves, you are telling them what to do. You're trying to get those artifacts. It's not funny, right? So that's something you're going to do. Like even my last role as a research compliance manager, where I work in a DevSecOps environment, and you want to implement security at the lower phase of the SDLC, that's a system development life cycle. One of the major projects I work on was to develop a secure code review. It was not easy for developers to adopt that. But again, from compliance perspective, that's something that we're going to do. Also make sure they are doing peer-to-peer review. When they write their codes, others can review those codes, implement better security. And Rep 5 also lay emphasis on privacy aspects. So not only security, but they also need to implement both security and privacy aspect. So this is some of the roles that you all are going to be working on. Yes, and I'll create a video on just third party. Okay, if you are dealing with third party vendors, it's got a lot of challenges, but it's one of the most beautiful also area to work for in cybersecurity. And then in-house, what else can you be doing? I think I've literally covered a whole lot, right? We'll talk about access controls, talk about policies, organization will have their own things as to what they do. But again, just coming from what you know that you're going to help manage organization risks better. And then again, being able to communicate with leadership. And this role, you should be someone who is a great communicator. You should be able to learn how to talk, because many a times you're going to be communicating, you're going to be talking to people, right? So it's not just a matter of you just sitting like, no, I'm not a talkative type, but there are